it's inspirational to me, and I feel like it was predestinated for me to do that because when I was painting the ship, it seemed like it was meant to happen. It was meant for me to be there painting this thing, and so that's what it meant to me.
And now that they've discovered it, it almost seems the emotion. Describe the emotion.
Well, since they discovered it, it almost seemed like a dream. Like I'm in a dream world now, because a ship that was history, umpteen years, and now is coming to pass that this thing is manifesting itself,
What this does for me and my descendant, the rest of the descendants, is that it's no longer a puff of smoke. It's real now. It's actually real. You can reach out and touch it. I mean, the divers from Search, I just love those guys, man, because they talked yesterday about what was going on with the ship. Now the work starts. We got a lot of work to do. It's not anything that's going to happen overnight. It's no longer a puff of smoke. It's real now. It's actually real. You can reach out and touch it. I mean, the divers from Search, I just love those guys, man, because they talked yesterday about what was going on with the ship, what was going on with the ship, what was going on with the ship, what was going on with the ship.
Yeah, man, it's a lot of stuff that needs to get told that's not being told. That's the reason why you have people like me that are willing, to go get their hands dirty and get their hands involved in everything that's out here that's going on so we can make sure that it's true or not. I don't want to be taught lies. I don't want to be taught lies. If you're going to tell the truth, tell the truth. Otherwise, I'm going to think you're hiding something. And that's what I'm here for. Because I automatically knew you were hiding something. I said, no way. And let me come down here now.
To watch all of my exclusive content not featured here on my channel, log on to my website at imjustheretomakeyoutthink.com/films.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now I am here. I am in Mobile, Alabama, in Africatown. In Africatown, as you can see, right behind me, I have the old Plateau Cemetery. I'm right here, right beside the cemetery. Right behind me is going to be the resting area. I'm going to go over that, but before I do that, I think it's very important to point out something that is the oldest thing out here. Let's take a look at this. Take a look at behind me. It says Old Plateau. Let me make sure you see this. Old Plateau Cemetery, established 1876. Now, that's very important to note because that's older than anything else out here. And then, of course, the sign, in which I'm going to walk up on right now, you're seeing that it's saying Old Plateau Cemetery, Africatown Graveyard. So when was it changed to Africatown? Now, according to the sign, it says 2010 by the African American Heritage Trail of Mobile. I don't know if you can see that, but that's right behind this thing that says Dora Franklin Finley African American Heritage Trail. Like this is, they're saying that this is a trail, but where's the trail? Where is it? All right, so quickly, I'm going to read off this sign of the, actually, I'm going to swing it to it so you guys can see it as we read it. It says, the Old Plateau Cemetery, Africatown Graveyard. The old Plateau Cemetery, known as the Africatown Graveyard, is the final resting place of enslaved Africans, African Americans, and a Buffalo Soldier. The burial ground dates back to 1876, 16 years after Africans arrived on the Clotilda, which was one of the last documented slave ships to leave Africa for the Americas. The northern area of the graveyard is the older section where the remains of Clotilda survivors have been found through an archaeological preservation project directed by the College of William and Mary. Certain things are engraved in the tombstones that they're going to say. Now, it's about 95 degrees out here, so you're going to see the sun beaming on me a lot, guys. But I'm going to have footage rolling where you can see this area. These are actual people that are here, and I'm not going to sit here and say that they're not African, okay? I'm not going to sit here and say that. I'm not going to sit here and say that ships didn't arrive, or Africans, rather, didn't arrive here. I'm not going to say that neither. I never did. What I'm telling you is that there wasn't that many. So these people could be African, and everybody else is what? See? And everybody else is what? Now, I mean, you changed this name, and I'm gonna get to the bottom of this, because I could tell that you changed this name, because that sign is older than this one. And I can tell that says Old Plateau Cemetery, established 1876. And the way it looks, I can tell that sign is older than this one. And even according to the date when this historic marker was placed here, it says 2010. I'm going to double check. I'm going to make sure that wasn't changed. And I'm also going to take you guys to an area where I think they're going to be having the center located. I'm going to go over there really quickly. It's just like 2 seconds right here.
Well, that's missing.
Now, my wife is indicating to me that this was the center. See, this is a ruin. Excuse me, hon. This is a ruin here, and you could tell that there was a brick building there. And you could definitely tell that a building was here. This is a walkway where you could walk up the steps. Somebody, a wheelchair. This is wheelchair accessible right here. You can come up here, come around, and it will lead to that. But right behind that, if you could tell, that's a house. I'm going to show you what house that is right here in a second. Like right now, probably. You're probably seeing a house. That's crazy. So apparently it was here. Okay. But look at all this grass. All behind it. I don't know why they're saying that this is a future site. At this sign it says Africatown. Well, hold on. Let me get this side first, because this side look newer. It says future home of the Africatown Welcome Center. Keep in mind, this is right beside the graveyard. I don't know if you guys can see the graveyard, but that's the area that the, which one was the Mobile University that came and cleaned it? Oh, here we go. That's a good one. Because it was like to a point where nobody could see it, and the grass was up too high. But back to the sign. Africatown Welcome Center, Plateau, right? It got the phone number there, but it said in the address, but it says open Thursday the 5th, Monday through, Monday through Friday? Open something Thursday, 5 Monday through, I don't know. Now all of a sudden you found the boat? Where? What about it? Look at the ruins. Look at this. Look at this. That's brand new sidewalk. Something was back here. A building that was removed. Somebody had to call them out on something. Oh, man. Hold on. What is this? Mr. Thomas, something. And I'm going to do more research on who these people are. I don't know who these people are, but their head is gone. Somebody chopped them heads off. So both of those people, look at this. Somebody did that. But look at all this space. Something was here. You could definitely see the outline of the building. clearly. Look at the walkway. Something happened. They did something right off of the bridge, too. They hiding something. So, guys, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to come out here and investigate. Of course, I'm with my wife, which is lovely. I love the fact that I'm with my wife. We're doing this type of thing. I'm so glad that she's interested in that, too, because this is what we love to do. And came out here, come to find out, the water is further away from here, number one. Number two, they have it all blocked off by industrial facilities. Let me say it that way. It's not open to the public. Let me say that. It's not open to the public. I'm talking about it's all industrial. I'm going to have the fume rolling. It's all industrial. And I said to myself, I was going to take a risk and go down there. Now, as far as the pieces are concerned, where this last slave ship is, nowhere near to be found. Now, the boat, nowhere near to be found. All of those news reporters that are stating that they found the boat, no, they did not. They are lying. They didn't find nothing.
Now to a truly historic discovery in southern Alabama, where the last known slave ship to arrive in the United States has been found.
The wreck of the last ship to transport African slaves to the U.S. may have been found.
Environmental and investigative reporter Ben Raines believes this is the resting place of the Clotilda, the last ship to bring slaves from Africa to North America.
All of those news reporters that are stating that they found the boat, no, they did not. They are lying. They didn't find nothing. What they're trying to do is keep up the narrative. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to keep up the narrative, of the so-called transatlantic slave trade. That's what they're trying to do. So I'm down here. I'm going to have more footage rolling, and I'm definitely going to continue talking with you guys off camera. So just listen to me. I'm going to break everything down.
My parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, and great-grandparents lived in this community, and they were some of the pioneers of this community. And as a matter of fact, they was in this community when the Clotilda landed. They was in this community when the Clotilda landed. They was in this community when the Clotilda landed.
On March 4th, 1860, an alleged cargo ship sailed from Mobile, Alabama to the Kingdom of Dahomey, also known as Whydah. Formerly the Kingdom of Whydah is a city on the coast of Benin. William Foster was the captain that was alleged to have purchased these West Africans from their employers of this land, now known as Benin, on May 15, 1860. It was said that Foster brought an estimated 100 to 110 Aboriginal Africans back to Mobile, Alabama on July 9, 1860, which makes it a 4-month and 5-day journey. The National Geographic Society claims that a Mobile landowner and alleged shipbuilder named Timothy Mear, quote, allegedly wagered several northern businessmen $1,000 that he could smuggle a cargo of Africans into Mobile Bay under the nose of federal officials, end quote. It was said that Timothy, along with his brother, Burns Mear, John Dabney, and other co-conspirators invested money together in order to hire a crew and a captain to go to Africa and buy enslaved Africans. The story goes on to say that they used Timothy Mear's ship, which was designed for lumber trade, known as the Clotilda, to travel back and forth across the Atlantic Ocean during the hot and humid summer months of 1860. Now, the Smithsonian claims that Captain William Foster was the shipbuilder and, quote, then ordered the Clotilda taken upstream, burned, and sunk to conceal the evidence of their illegal activity. However, it was also mentioned in a book called Dreams of Africa in Alabama, the slave ship Clotilda, and the story of the last Africans brought to America, published in 2007 by French author Sylvia Anna Diouf, that William Foster claimed that also at a later time that the ship had been sold for $6,000. But the National Geographic Society says a totally different story, stating that, quote, after the voyage, Captain Foster burnt Clotilda to the waterline and sank the ship in about 20 feet of water in the Mobile River. According to the later attempts to hide her location, included using dynamite to blast the wreck. Archaeologists have found the wreck buried in silt using 3D scanners, magnetometers, and other technology, end quote. Sounds like the project was funded pretty well. So you would think that the hired scuba diver would capture at the very least a 4K resolution, 60 frames per second underwater video of this alleged discovery, right? But instead, they are limited to just a few pictures of some unidentifiable objects as their evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this is the actual remains of Clotilda?
Asking what was the smoking gun moment? You had all this stuff lining up, but at the end, what it really boiled down to was, so how do you point out that this wreck is one that you can put a name on out of over 1,500 of them in the Gulf at that time, and out of over 1,500 of them in the Gulf at that time. Okay. So we pulled every record for every one of those vessels, including the archives, and looked at all of them. Okay. And looked at all of them. Okay. And we analyzed it and sorted it through as scientists do. But in the end, what was really interesting is Clotilda was one of several that were built that big and to carry that much. One of only 5 of those that had been built to be insured to a certain standard. And in the end, there's only one schooner out of over 1,500 in the Gulf through that entire period. There's 86 feet long, by 23 feet, by almost 7 feet deep, and that could carry 120 tons. And that is what is sitting in the Mobile River.
A slave wrecks project scuba diver by the name of Kamu Sadiki stated that, quote, there are no photographs of the site where the Clotilda was found or of the wreck itself. This ship wasn't very deep, 8 to 10 feet at the most, but the conditions are sort of treacherous. Visibility was almost zero, and there's some current, but the most important thing is that you're among wreckage that you cannot see. There's a whole host of possibilities to being injured, from being impaled to getting snagged and so forth. This indicates that there was no real possibility that he, or anyone else for that matter, can determine what was underwater due to the lack of visibility and dangerous, inhumane conditions that hinders the investigation. So, there was no discovery of Clotilda physically, just only hopes and wishes for attention grabbing and possible income opportunities by way of experimenting through social engineering. This so-called transatlantic slave trade story, along with the pseudoscientific theory that groups of thousands of undocumented enslaved West African native people immigrated to lands in North America, derived from the likes of a German descendant anthropologist by the name of Melville Herskovits, a very familiar name that you may recall me mentioning during multiple segments that I have previously published on my channel. Herskovits is the sole author of the 2 volumes of a book entitled Dahomey, an Ancient West African Kingdom, which was published in 1938. Other public sources indicates that a French author also wrote similar fictional allegations in 1911 of thriving West African rulership who traded off their prisoners of war or employees with palefaces that traveled here in transient status in hopes of deporting the newly indentured servants back to North America. In fact, the area in Mobile, Alabama that was chosen to be called Africatown was originally known as just simply Plateau, or rather Plateau, Alabama, between the early 1860s until the late 1940s. Then a much smaller section of the same area later became known as Lewis Quarters in the 1940s, after the passing of Charlie Lewis, a duly noted so-called African man who was said to be the last surviving immigrating passenger that was aboard the Clotilda. dropped upon unfamiliar lands, which meant that he lived his life as a squatter, just like other incoming pale-faced foreigners that migrated here to the Americas. John Henry Smith was a Mississippi native that had a master's degree of arts and counseling. He only became familiar with the storyline of the Clotilda as he worked on a design project for the Africatown Cochrane Bridge, alongside Senator Michael A. Figures, an Alabama senator from the 33rd District. John was also credited with establishing the Africatown USA Project with Bishop Henry C. Williams and the Progressive League in the year 1980, in which he decided to go a political route by joining the Republican Party and running for mayor of Pritchard, Alabama that same year. What's very important to note is that John's campaign promise, the Think Pritchard campaign, was, quote, an awakening of citizens once at sleep concerning the future of the city as a place to live, work, and shop. The campaign was established to bring about an increased regional awareness and appreciation for the cultural, historic, geographic, and investment value of the city of Pritchard. It was said that John stated that, quote, each city must produce itself a character and reputation by which it is known. He was perceiving that the economic recovery of Pritchard was connected with the historical significance of the last known slave ship to land in the United States. According to the Library of Congress, there are records that indicates that a bill was introduced various times within the 1980s. It was introduced as a bill to establish a National Historic Park at Africatown, USA. But none of these bills were ever passed in Congress, nor ever became lawful. So Africatown was never officially established as a National Historic Site in 2012, as some may assume. During the month of February in 2013, author Malcolm Logan stated, quote, Africatown will not be a National Historic Site. The cabins are all gone. The people are all dead. You cannot preserve an idea, end quote. So, John Henry Smith's campaign promise was either a lie or just something that was truly never meant to be taken seriously in the first place. As the progression of millions of dollars became more fluent for the community from the revenue gained by surrounding industrial facilities like the International Paper Company plant that sat adjacent to Africatown, for example. Mind you, the original economic plan was to generate revenue in order to build the area into a long-term prosperous community, and a short visit to a planned welcome center and maybe a national park will attract a heavy flux of attention from sightseers and travelers to the area in order to generate a rapid growth of wealth over time. No. However, large corporations of industrial facilities that stretches miles long along the Mobile Bay would do so, to the tune of $20 billion in 1983. The Africatown Welcome Center was originally a trailer, or rather a mobile home, that was said to have been used as a temporary headquarters for one of the city's police precincts, illegally, due to the structure being originally designed for residential use only. In 2012, this mobile home was also illegally used as a welcome center for Africatown and was eventually removed from its location in Plateau due to not being in legal condition for commercial use by Alabama state law. And to date, the Welcome Center for Africatown has still not been erected 7 years later. The previous sign, which had the phone number and the business hours for the previous Welcome Center, had been turned to face away from the public. The iron wrought gate that read Africatown across it had one side of it torn off, and the area sits vacant and dilapidated, while a new sign reads, Future Home of the Africatown Welcome Center, across the front of it. But my question is, if this was in fact a valuable story with creditable information to back it, Why has it taken so long to reach the public? Why did it take so long for the book, which has allegedly held the account of one of the last known survivors, given to Zora Neale Hurston in 1927? Why is it just now being published 91 years later? And how is it that so comfortably and coincidentally, a ship to go with it has just been recently found?
Over the top happy about it. I always believed that it was out there, so I'm just so ecstatic about it.
Representative Bradley Byrne also issued the following statement yesterday saying, quote, "This is a significant day for the people of Africatown, but also for Alabama and our nation. The discovery comes after archaeologists thought they found the ship along the banks of the Mobile River in 2018, but over a year and a half later, the ship was found off 12 Mile Island in the Mobile River Delta."
Yes, it is Clotilda.
Womack and Cleon Jones are from Africatown, the Mobile community settled by the Clotilda's freed slaves.
They didn't find an old slip. They found history. They didn't find an old slip. They found history. They didn't find an old slip. They found history. They didn't find an old slip. They found history.
We did not know when we began that this is one of the few undredged stretches of the Mobile River. If it's never been dredged, it's probably something like a shipyard graveyard, a shipwreck graveyard. So we found 14 separate wrecks. Probably something like a shipyard graveyard, a shipwreck graveyard. So we found 14 separate wrecks.
So there were 14 wrecks that were found. A couple of them had been previously seen, and we were able to reconfirm the now completely buried and intact wrecks of the Confederate ironclad CSS Huntsville and Tuscaloosa. We also found river structures built in the 1850s as part of the control and improving navigation on the Mobile River. And the 14 wrecks, well, we don't have names on any of those yet. 14 wrecks, well, we don't have names on any of those yet. But what we do know, in terms of sorting this out, some of them are iron or steel barges that date from the last part of the 1800s up to the early 1900s. Two of them appear to be iron or steel sailing ships, almost clipper formed, the type of ships that sailed in the 1870s or 80s, but by the time of World War I, were being used as barges to carry timber out of Mobile. One, the first wreck found, is a large, probably four-masted wooden schooner, maybe had a motor, that was also used in that lumber trade, but had been built on the West Coast. And then there's Clotilda. The reality is that Clotilda was the first vessel put into what we now know is a graveyard of ships in that portion of the Mobile River. And a comprehensive catalog is how you get to the point where you finally go to one wreck and you say, okay, might be, let's prove it's not. And when you can't prove it's not, and you reach that point where the evidence stacks up, then you're left with one conclusion. Then you're left with one conclusion.
I'm just here to make you think.